I wish to dwell on a great river, a river that has disappeared, a river that nourished one of the greatest civilizations of our world, perhaps the oldest civilization. It is about the prehistoric river Saraswati.
Before the discovery of the Harappan civilization, it was thought that there is a gap in the history of the country, and the British historians had mentioned that the India jumps from Stone Age to the Stupa period or the early strike period. But then in 1920s, the site of Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, these two sites were excavated simultaneously, and in 1924 they made the announcement of the discovery of the Harappan civilization. To be precise, it was on 20th September 1924 by Sir John Marshall. And then, at one stroke, the settled life was pushed back by almost 3,000 years in the Indian subcontinent. And the significance of this is now that we have a continuous history of this region for almost 2 million years, which is very important. When we study the distribution of the Harappan settlements, we notice that nearly 2/3 of the known sites are located in the Saraswati basin, or what is known as the Ghaggar-Hakra basin now. And this shows that perhaps the Ghaggar-Hakra or the ancient or the Rigvedic Saraswati region was very, very important for the Harappans. Now, Deccan College in fact has started work in this part in 2006. So what we did in fact in the initial stage, we tried to locate the settlements which were reported by the earlier scholars in 60s, 1960s and 70s. Now those settlements have been have completely been destroyed by the people, because the land in this part is so precious, and therefore some of the sites the farmers started flattening those sites. They started destroying the sites, and they started converting the sites into agricultural fields. This site is located in the in the middle of the Saraswati basin, and right on the bank of Saraswati river, one of the major tributaries of the Saraswati. So both in fact Saraswati area and the Dulsarati area were thickly populated by the Harappans that time. Now when we began, we did not start with the excavation, because there was controversy about the size of the settlement. So we did undertake some scientific methods like the GPR survey, ground penetration survey, and also the foot survey we undertook. And now the total area is coming around 550 hectare, which is much larger than the site of Mohenjo-daro, which has got 300 hectare. There are 9 mounds now. The 7 mounds were discovered earlier by the Archaeological Survey of India, and 2 more mounds have been discovered by us. So we want to understand the history of each and every mound. So we began with mound number 4, which is under the modern occupation, and there we could get complete sequence of the site, which is the thickest sequence at any Harappan site, which is over 22 meter deposit. And here in fact there is very good scope for understanding again the gradual evolution of the Harappan civilization of the site, which we are working on. Then in the second season in Patna, we were more interested in understanding the life of the early Harappan people. Because usually what happens, the early Harappan deposit is found below the mature Harappan deposit, and there is not much scope in fact in excavating large area of the early Harappan settlements. But at Rakikadi there is a separate early Harappan mound number 6, and there we could notice that the last phase of the early Harappan phase is present here.
Before we discuss Harappan civilization, we should know where the roots of that civilization lie. Actually, its roots lie in the late 8th or 7th millennium BCE. They made their houses of bricks, well-made bricks. And they were raising 3 types of wheat, two varieties of barley. This is the beginning of crop agriculture. And at the same time, they started domesticating the cattle, the goats and sheep. Right from the stage 1, the people, these Neolithic people, these village farming people, were not living in isolation. They had a wider network of interaction, which involved Afghanistan, Central Asia, Iran, and good part of northwestern India. India means Indian subcontinent. So Harappan civilization was a culmination of that long cultural process. It was not sudden, it was not an isolated phenomenon as many archaeologists believe in the past, but it was a climax of a long cultural process, as I told you.
I would tell you something about this land. Land which nourishes the Thar Desert, a desert which is unique in many ways. You wouldn't believe, but it is true, that the number of animals, milk animals in this desert is the largest in the world. Not only that, the fertility of the animals is also great. This means that this desert sand had nutrients in it. Nutrients, mineral nutrients, which only the rivers can bring, and rivers can bring from the mountain. Strangely, again, this waterless, or I would say riverless tract is dotted with the settlements of the Harappan culture. More than 2,000 settlements have been identified along this tract. They were not villages, they were major towns or maybe cities with all fortifications. Cities divided into sectors. Here is another city. It was a seaport. Look at the town planning, the sectors into which it is divided, the storage of water, storage tank. All these features bespeak of the elegance of the culture. Here's another picture, Lothal. The other one was Dholavira. This is a Lothal. Look at the seaport, and with the biggest harbor anyway, even today. Now, satellite imagery shows that in those places where the settlements were located, there is a clear indication of existence of river, showed by green line. Green line means moisture. There is another one I will show you. Look at this place. Here, the red one. In other words, the satellite imagery demonstrate that once upon a time there did exist a river which had a very wide, extraordinarily wide channel. Here's Mount Kailash in Tibet. Very close to Mount Kailash are twin lakes, Mansarovar and Rakshastal. Here's the picture of Rakshastal. Very close to Rakshastal is the source of a river Satluj, what used to be called Shatadru. Here's that place. Then originating from close to Rakshastal, it flows all the way through Tibet, crosses the Tibet India border at Shipkila and enters India, cutting across the ever snowy mountain range called Great Himalaya or Himadri. Cutting through Great Himalaya, the Lesser Himalaya, the Shivalik, it enters into the plain at the place called Ropar. Remember, today's Satluj at Ropar suddenly swings westward, but in those times flowed straight southeastward. Now I'm talking about another branch. Close to the mountain Bandar Punch in western Garhwal, Bandar Punch, is a Harki Dun glacier. Harki Dun glacier is the source of a river Tons, source of a river Tamasa, source of the river eastern branch of Saraswati. After crossing Great Himalaya Range, Lesser Himalaya Range, it enters into the Shivalik. The two branches joined together at Shatarana, where the channels become unusually, extraordinary wide, 6 to 8 kilometer wide abruptly, and all through its stretch up to the border of Pakistan and beyond, it continued to remain 6 to 8 kilometers wide, or even as I said, 10 kilometers wide. And then in Pakistan part it is called Hakara. Then it goes down southward in eastern Sindh, Pakistan, where it is called Nara. Now that river then ended its journey, discharged into the run of Kutch. Now a tidal flat characterized by salt incrustation on the soil, but in the past it must have been an arm, a gulf of the Arabian Sea.
See, river Saraswati, when we talk of, we are not talking of a lost river system. We are talking of a lost civilization, and we are talking of origin of that civilization. We may call it Indus Valley civilization or Saraswati Valley civilization, or origin of residents of this part of land. So, because of that, the importance of Saraswati comes. ISRO had taken a project with the Central Groundwater Board and State Groundwater Board. Even Bhabha Atomic Research Center was involved in that. We have thoroughly mapped the paleochannels using satellite data. They have found that in about 2000 square kilometer area, the potable groundwater reserves are available along the paleochannels, and the reserves of the groundwater, they amount to about 800 million cubic meter.
In this land of brackish water, sweet water at the depth of 30 to 50 meters and then 60 meters to 250 meters depth, huge body of sweet water. This is not a recent water, not a recharged rainwater, but this is a fossil water of the past, which only could have come from river Saraswati, which is dried up, but underground water still continues to remain.
Saraswati, as far as the Vedas, especially the Rigveda is concerned, is a very unique and intriguing deity. It is a feminine deity, as we know. Later on she is related to speech, knowledge, but in the Vedas there are various features which got evolved from a kernel and which is itself intriguing.
The word Saraswati occurs in the Rigveda 68 times. Almost 3 entire hymns are addressed to her. Other references are scattered in the entire text. Saras means pool, pond or water body, and Vati is a suffix meaning having, possessing. The word implies that it is a river of deep water at many places. In the Rigveda, deep water indicates deep poetic vision as well as ultimate knowledge. She is also described as Hiranyavartani, having golden cores, sunny cores. Strength of her water, Amaha Arnavaha, is boundless, Ananta, but it is not destructive, Arutaha. Vasishtha says, we always like to be in her protection. Tava Sharman Priyatame Dadhana. Sharman means protection, and the Sharman is Priyatama for Vasishtha. It is the most dear to him. She is called Dhinam Avitri, protector of poetic imagination, poetic creativity. She promotes the poetic language, Chodayitri Sunrutanam. She inspires good thoughts, Chetanti Sumatinam. Her association with Dhi and Mati, good thinking, is probably the main cause of her transformation to Vagdevi.
As far as the meaning of the Saras or the root Sru goes, which means to flow, this goddess or this deity is identified with the river also, and therefore she is called Naditama. And as all the gods are many times described, she is called Rutavari. She never goes against the rules or the order set by nature, and therefore she is Ghora to those who break this order. So the horrifying nature we can find in this disciplinary element also. She is called the goddess who protects the Dhi and who protects the retentive power or the retention of intellect or knowledge. So what is intellect? That is the faculty of learning, which later on got evolved into the deciding aspect of the goddess Saraswati as the goddess of knowledge and learning.
வெண்தாமரை கன்றி நின் பதம் தாங்க என் வெள்ளை உள்ள தண்டாமரைக்கு தகாது கொலோ ஜகமேழுமலை துண்டான் உறங்க ஒழித்தான் பித்தாக உண்டாக்கும் வண்ணம் கண்டான் சுவைகொள் கரும்பே சகல கலாவல்லியே.
The important attribute or adjective for Saraswati is Dhiya Vasuhu. Sayana says, Karma Prapya Dhana Nimitta Bhuta. She not only instigates, but she teaches. Skandaswamin clearly mentions Dhiya Vasuhu iti Pradnyadhana. And here comes the very important hint of connection of Saraswati with Pradnya or intellect. Dhi is Pradnya, Dhi is intellect, Dhi is Buddhi, and Vasuhu is Dhana. So she is Pradnya Dhana, having the wealth of intellect. So clear-cut mention we get in the very first mandal. Athava vasehe achhadanarthasya vasu shabdaha. There is another root, vas, and its meaning is to envelop everything, to cover everything. So pradnyaya achhadayitri sarvarthanam. Sarvarthanam. Whatever is there in this universe, she envelops each and everything, the whole Brahmanda, by means of Prajna. Because Prajna is the very spark, Prajna is the force which has created this material world. So, this is Achhadayitri Sarvarthanam Prajna, that is Saraswati. Venkatamadhava, in his very brief commentary, he has mentioned Prajnaya Sarvesham Vasayitri iti Dhyavasuhu. So, he paraphrased Dhyavasuhu as Prajnaya Sarvesham Vasayitri. Again, the causative idea is there. Who causes, the river causes the settlement of everything and everyone through Prajna. See the deeper meaning, hidden meaning. On one line we can say because of the river, and on other line if we consider it as Prajna, the very intellect, the Chaitana, because of that Chaitana the universe is here.
सरस्वती और सिंधु नदी के तट पे जो संस्कृति का प्रादुर्भाव हुआ और इसका जो विकास हुआ, उसके बारे में ज़्यादा जानने के लिए पाकिस्तान से 7 किलोमीटर पहले अनूपगढ़ डिस्ट्रिक्ट में बिंजौर 4 MSR विलेज के पास एक जगह है जहां हरप्पन माउंट पे एक्सकविशन शुरू किया था। यहाँ जो हमें एविडेंस मिले हैं वो अर्ली हरप्पन के भी एविडेंस हैं, साथ साथ मैच्योर हरप्पन के भी एविडेंस है। मैच्योर हरप्पन में इटसेल्फ कई फेज दिखाई देते हैं। कम से कम 4 स्ट्रक्चरल फेज मैच्योर हरप्पन में दिखाई देता है। उसके अलावा मैच्योर हरप्पन में इटसेल्फ साइट एविडेंट हो गया। कारण संभवतः नदी जो सूखने लगी होगी या सीज़न का बदलाव होगा या फिर फ्लड का जो एक्युमुलेशन है वो हुआ होगा आसपास, तो मैच्योर हरप्पन इटसेल्फ में वहाँ से माइग्रेशन शुरू होता है। अगर हम पूरे साइट पे देखें तो हर structure के within a structure and outside of a structure also several type of hearths are there. Some of them are furnished, some of them may be domestic. तो कभी आप योनी शेप के हर्थ देखेंगे, कई बार राउंडेड हर्थ देखेंगे, और एक जो सबसे महत्वपूर्ण बात मैं कहना चाहता हूँ कि एक हर्थ हमें मिला है जो संभवतः फायर अल्टर होगा, उसमें ऑक्टागोनल यष्टि मध्य में मिला है जो 8 पहल का बना है, और सिमिलर टाइप का यष्टि कालीबंगा में भी प्राप्त हुआ था, और कालीबंगा में भी फायर अल्टर के एविडेंसेस मिले हैं। तो ये रिचुअलिस्टिक होने के भी प्रमाण हैं यहाँ पे। जो ट्रेड कॉन्टैक्ट्स हैं और कॉन्टैक्ट विद द अदर साइट अगर हम बात करें तो बहुत सारे ऐसे कंपोनेंट हैं जो स्पष्ट दिखाता है कि अलग अलग साइट के साथ, अलग अलग जगहों के साथ इस सेटलमेंट का कांटेक्ट रहा होगा। जैसे आप शेल वेट और शेल बैंगल की बात करें तो वो ये रिवर सेल नहीं है बल्कि मेराइन सेल का यूज़ किया है, जो संभवतः खंबात और उधर से लाए गए होंगे। साथ में बीड्स बनाने का जो रॉ मटेरियल है वो यहाँ अवेलेबल नहीं है, स्टोन की अवेलेबिलिटी नहीं है, जिसमें आप देखेंगे कि लेपिस जैसे स्टोन भी यहाँ पे मिल रहे हैं जो इस रीजन में कहीं भी उपलब्ध नहीं है। साथ में कॉपर की बात करें तो कॉपर यहाँ से करीब 200 किलोमीटर के आसपास खेतरी एक जगह है जहाँ से संभवतः कॉपर लाके यहाँ स्मेल्ट भी करते हों और वो बनाते हों। चर्ट जो है, चर्ट रोहरी पाकिस्तान में जगह है जहाँ से चर्ट आता होगा। गोल्ड भी शायद साउथ से गोल्ड का एक्सपोर्ट करते हों, लाते हों। तो इस तरह से ट्रेड कॉन्टैक्ट जो है ये वेल एस्टेब्लिश होता है मटेरियल कल्चर से। और आप सम ऑफ द मटेरियल कल्चर आप देखेंगे जो इनका डिफरेंट डिनोमिनेशन के वेट है वो मैं आपको दिखाता हूँ। ये अलग अलग डिनोमिनेशन के वेट है, ये चर्ट के बने हुए वेट है और ये शेल के बने हुए छोटे से वेट भी आपको दिखाई देते हैं। तो वेट इट्सेल्फ शो करता है कि उनकी इकोनॉमी और उनका जो सिस्टम है, वेट सिस्टम है, वो कितना डेवलप था। और नॉट ओनली दैट, इनका आर्ट और वो भी आप देखें कितना क्यूबिकल और कितना स्मूथ। ये कॉपर ऑब्जेक्ट देखेंगे, दिस इज द ब्यूटीफुल सेल्ट ऑफ कॉपर मेड ऑफ सॉलिड कॉपर। This is a terracotta human figurine, the female figurine. You can see the necklace, multiple string of necklace, and also in the hair dressing, the beads embedded in the hair itself. And this is terracotta bangle. You can see the beautiful carnelian bead, the barrel shaped bead of carnelian. This is a seal of early Harappan period having both side depiction of animal. You can see the opposite side also, and the animal depiction is there. जो trade linkage और जो indigenous thought और यहाँ जो टोटल कॉन्सेप्ट, इंडिजिनस कॉन्सेप्ट के साथ साथ जो अन्य देशों में जो डेवलपमेंट था, दोनों थॉट का प्रोसेस में ज्ञान और विज्ञान का विस्तार जो है अपने चरम सीमा पे था उस समय। और यही कारण है कि संभवतः जो वैदिक कल्चर था, अगर हम उसे कंटेम्प्रेरी और एक साथ अगर जोड़ के देखते हैं तो उस समय इट्सेल्फ संगीत, म्यूज़िक, ज्ञान, विज्ञान सब कुछ डेवलपमेंट दिखाई देता है। द इंडस वैली सिविलाइजेशन में भी अगर हम नृत्य मुद्राओं में हम स्कल्पचर्स मिल रहे हैं, साथ साथ विज्ञान के और कंपोनेंट्स भी साफ दिखाई दे रहे हैं जो एक विकसित सभ्यता के अंग हैं।
व्यापदं सेदं जगल सर्वं तवैवादो
So let us see what happens now in about 1900 BC. So let's say about 4,000 years ago. You know that the Harappans were great traders, and all of these cities, all of these settlements are bristling with commercial activity, manufacturing also, of course, but trading. We see a lot of movement of goods, and it makes a lot of sense to have at least some of the cities, not all of them, but some of them right on the river, because then that's the fastest way of communication. And that is how you see, for example, objects manufactured in Dholavira in Gujarat moving all the way to up to Harappa in Punjab, which is perhaps 900 kilometers away or more. That would have taken place through the rivers. So then the river flows, and suddenly 1900 BC archaeological excavations are categorical. A city like Kalibangam is abandoned almost overnight. Now, overnight, of course, is a relative term. It doesn't mean overnight. It could mean over 10 years, 20 years. We really don't know. However, the city is abandoned, cleanly abandoned. There is no sense of destruction, of warfare. There's no evidence of any particular violence. People just move out. And the central basin of the Saraswati River is just emptied. So what we should now retain from the saga of the Saraswati, if you like, is that as it dries up, its drying up seems to be closely correlated with the disintegration of the Harappan civilization.
എന്നുമെൻ്റെ മനസ്സിൻ്റെ ചക്രവാളാന്തരങ്ങളിൽ എന്നുമെൻ്റെ മനസ്സിൻ്റെ ചക്രവാളാന്തരങ്ങളിൽ ആരോ കരയുമാ ശബ്ദം നീറിപ്പടരുമാ ശബ്ദം ദൂരെയല്ല അയലത്തല്ല എന്നുള്ളിൽ എൻ്റെ അകങ്ങളിൽ എൻ്റെയാണെൻ്റെ ആ ശബ്ദം. അഭയാർത്ഥികളല്ല നാം, ആക്രമിപ്പോരുമല്ല നാം, ഭൂമി വിൽപ്പവരല്ല നാം, ഭൂമി വാങ്ങുന്നുമില്ല നാം, സാർത്ഥവാഹകരല്ല നാം, ശാസ്ത്രജ്ഞർ തീർത്ഥയാത്രികർ. കനൽ കണ്ണിൽ മിന്നി നിൽക്കും താരകത്താൽ പ്രചോദിതർ, കനൽ കണ്ണിൽ മിന്നി നിൽക്കും താരകത്താൽ പ്രചോദിതർ, കനിവിന്നാഴമെന്തെന്ന് കണ്ടറിയുന്നവർ, അറിവിൻ്റെ പുരാവൃത്തം തിരുത്തിയെഴുതുന്നവർ, ഒരുമിച്ചൊരു സംസ്കാരത്തറ കെട്ടാനൊരുങ്ങുവോർ, ചലിക്കും ബിംബമായി മാത്രം പ്രപഞ്ചത്തെ ഗണിപ്പവർ, കാഴ്ച വിട്ടാനിടം തേടി, കാഴ്ച വിട്ടാനിടം തേടി, കാണാ പാതകൾ താണ്ടുവോ. കൊച്ചു ദുഃഖങ്ങളെയൊക്കെ വിരൽ തുമ്പാലെ നീക്കുക, കൊച്ചു ദുഃഖങ്ങളെയൊക്കെ വിരൽ തുമ്പാലെ നീക്കുക, മഹാദുഃഖങ്ങളെ മാത്രം മാറിൽ ആഴ്ത്തിയിറക്കുക, അവയെ താരാട്ടാനായി നെഞ്ചിനെ തൊട്ടിലാക്കുക, അവയെ താരാട്ടാനായി നെഞ്ചിനെ തൊട്ടിലാക്കുക. കനിവും കാവ്യവും ചെറ്റുനർമ്മവും ചേരുമെങ്കിലോ ഈ ജീവിതമഹായാത്ര നമുക്കു തുടരാം ചിരം.
The question about Saraswati, which is always asked, is how did she become from a river goddess to a goddess of learning, of wisdom, of music, of art? So my understanding is that the connecting element is water. Because in the aesthetic experience, the central concept is rasa. And rasa is always something fluid. It is not something static. Saraswati's connection with water is also very evident in her Vahana, the Hamsa. He is a water bird, but who lives in two elements, water and air. So the watery aspect contains the symbolism that although being in water, he is not touched by water. And that is a symbol both for the spiritual experience as well as for the aesthetic experience. Because even when we experience some beautiful scene and a drama and so on, we are not getting identified with it. So there is we are in it and yet out of it. In the same way, the Hamsa is in the water and yet it does not touch the feathers, it does not stick to him. And that implies the two levels of the aesthetic experience and the spiritual experience. And of course, his other great symbolism that he is a bird moving freely in the sky. And this freedom of movement in the sky, it is in the spirituality of Kashmir Shaivism. It is called Kechara, or Kechari in feminine. Now, Ka is the space, open space, and Chara who is moving freely. And this Kechara or Kechari is also a mudra of the liberated soul. And many texts refer to that state of a Kechara, means who can transcend his physical body to move out into the space of consciousness. So that is why Saraswati is not just only limited to the aesthetic level or music, poetry and so on, but also to the mystical or spiritual level, where her very Vahana is a symbol of that freedom of the spirit.